Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Comedy Castle podcast. I'm Joel Fragomeni. I'm going to be talking to you here about what's going on this week at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. And got a great interview with Cam Bertrand. He's our weekend headliner. And it was cool to talk to Cam. We'll go over what we talked about here in a second, but it was a good interview. I think you're going to dig it. But as you're listening to this, most of you, it's Tuesday, the 24th of September. And it's Hypnosis Unleashed with Kevin Lapine. We had a great interview a couple weeks with Kevin right here on this show. He's been with us a few times in the past, but I talked to him a couple weeks ago to plug this very event, 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday the 24th. Get your tickets. They are still available for Kevin, but he always draws a nice crowd. One of the funniest and most entertaining hypnosis shows that you'd ever want to see. It plays at the Four Queens in Vegas year-round, but once a year it's at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, and that is this Tuesday, possibly today. I'm recording this at the very last few minutes of Monday the 23rd, but soon it will be Tuesday, and I will be at Hypnosis Unleashed, enjoying that show, which is so great. Go see Kevin. Wednesday the 25th, Detroit to LA Comedy Challenge returns at 7:30 p.m., Nice lineup for that one, too. I'm looking at it right here and over on comedycastle.com. My man C-Dub, Carl Merrick is emceeing. And a lot of my favorite people, former students, Kathy Walton is in there, Brett Solferino. And we've got M. Rose Miller, who's really cool and funny. You'll like her. She's super talented. And Johanna Mandranda closes it out. She's funny. It's going to be a great night. Detroit to LA, 7:30. Vote for who you like. You know, you don't get a lot of chances to vote. We're waiting in November to vote. But in the meantime, you can vote Wednesday night, the 25th. And then we got Cam Bertrand in for the 5 shows this weekend. Thursday, the 26th. Friday, the 27th. That's 7:30 show. Of course, on a Thursday, 7:15 and 9:45 will be your Friday shows on the 27th. Saturday, the 28th, at 7 p.m. and 9:30. And Cam's openers this week: Adam Minnick and Peggy Beatty, who I talked to Cam a bit about Peggy, because Peggy's great. She's a former student of mine, and she's gonna be she talks dirty, and she's super funny. And Cam's a young dude, so there's a contrast there, but I think they'll make it work. And then we got a special fundraiser on Sunday, the No Balls Comedy Ball. This is about dog adoption, I would think. Pet adoption, baby. Yeah, it's a Michigan Animal Adoption Network is who we're raising money for, but it's I think there'll be puppies there. I don't know that there'll be kittens. I cannot guarantee you a kitten, but I can guarantee you adoptable puppies. A performance by one of our favorite guys on this show, Dave Dyer. That's your headlining entertainer for the event. And the MC, of course, Jay Towers from WNIC and Fox 2 will be MCing it. I've met Jay a million times, and Jay always makes you feel good. He's got a way of talking to you. I don't know what it is. Very nice guy. Makes you feel important. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's some Dale Carnegie stuff that he does. But Jay will make you feel nice if you get a chance to talk to him. And you will this Sunday. And that's an early show, 12:30 p.m. There is a dinner. You can go to comedycastle.com to get the information on acquiring your tickets, because we are not selling them on our website. You have to go through the link there. Or maybe you can buy them. No, you have to buy them through the organizers. But we've got an email address up there on comedycastle.com, and that'll get you in there. And you'll see Dave, who's great, and Jay Towers, and me. I'll be there for that one. I'm going to need to rest up. 12:30 on Sunday. I don't know if I'm firing on all cylinders, but it'll be fun to have Jay out at the club and meet some puppies. Hanging out with my dog this weekend. Took him to the street fair. He didn't do so great. He started about 6 fights with big dogs. Got along with a bunch of little dogs. With the big dogs, he decided to bark in their face. It was a scene. Not good. You'll actually hear my dog. I don't think you can. I was worried you'd hear my dog Baxter barking through my interview with Cam, because that was happening. I don't know what was going on outside, but he was in the window giving him the business. I guess defending the house as you want a dog to do. It was about 8 minutes in. He went crazy for about a minute and a half, but I don't think you can hear it. I don't think you'll hear it. What can I tell you? I listened back with my equipment and could not hear it. But let's talk about Cam, because Cam is great. A young man straight out of Tampa, Florida, who has gone on to be quite popular online. His dry bar comedy special has over 5 million views on YouTube, and Cam will tell you on the interview, you'll hear this, over 100 million views on all of the various ways you can watch the dry bar in its various clips on TikTok, on Instagram, on Dry Bar's own website. There are over 100 million views of that dry bar special, which is incredible. We'll also talk about America's Got Talent and what happened there. He went on, he did a fantastic audition that I watched on YouTube, and then he didn't move on. You didn't see him again. And I was like, why don't we see Cam again on that season? And he'll sort of tell us why. It's sort of pandemic related. It also could be some bullshit canceling comedian censorship stuff. Is that what it is? You'll hear Cam tell his side of the story on this one. You'll also hear how Cam started out working in a comedy club. And he was doing all the jobs, and we kind of compare notes that way at the beginning of the interview. In fact, this interview just starts. I usually like to give a big intro. Ain't going to get any of that on this show. We're right into it. He picks up that phone, and we start talking. And I maybe left out the first 15 seconds. But that's it. You go right into it. You'll also hear about Cam renting a Jeep Wagoneer, which is a pretty crazy vehicle that I have some experience with. But really, maybe the craziest thing, and I think I'm just going to say this, and then we'll lead into the interview. He tells me a story about what happened around the taping of that dry bar special, and it was eye-opening. I have no idea he went through this, but yeah, Cam was in trouble there for a minute, health-wise, and he'll tell you why, and you can say, oh, that's wild. But again, maybe there is some fate. Maybe there is something about, and I guess I try to make this point in the interview, maybe there is something about stress. Maybe there is something about pressure that makes great art. And maybe what was going on in Cam's life when he taped that special, which has over 100 million views, maybe that came out. Maybe that came out of a little bit of desperation, a little bit of a man with his back against the wall and doing the best performance he can do. I don't know. Let's listen to it right now, and we'll come back with more right after this. Here's Cam Bertrand, everybody.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I hope you like it. I hope you're not like, oh, I see it. It's something.
Well, I work the door at the club as well, so I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna see a bunch of it this weekend. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it happened, dude. I'm a comic myself. Work the door at the club, so
Hell yeah, dude. I used to do all the jobs at the club. So
did you really? Okay.
Yeah, I did. The door guy for a little minute. I was the phone guy. I used to call people, tell them they want free tickets. I worked the sound booth.
Wow. Okay.
I served for a day. Yeah, I couldn't remember the special, so I'd just be like, "What do y'all want?" And they'd be like, "What's good?" And I'd be like, "Nothing. It's bar food. What do you want?"
Yeah. Well, that's good. Now, what club was this?
Side Splitters Comedy Club in Tampa.
Okay, so that now were you doing stand up did you do some open mics before you took a job on the staff, or is the other way around?
So I started at that club October 20th, 2013.
Okay.
And then I went to college for 3 weeks. And then I dropped out and I went back to Side Splitters, and I told my mom, like, I dropped out because I wanted to do stand up.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went back to Tampa, she told me, like, I had to get up 7 nights a week. Like, I had to just like, if I was going to do stand up, I had to do it. So I was at the comedy club every single night. And I had to watch 7 shows in a weekend, Thursday through Sunday, just in the back of the room, just watching everybody,
Yeah.
It was a lot,
and it helped you, I'm sure. When you did get on stage.
Oh yeah, I mean, just learning from everybody. You know, you you learn what to do, what not to do, the difference between a Thursday show, a Saturday late show. Yeah, getting to see the differences is it's a lot of help.
Yeah, that's all real stuff. Yeah, because that's the thing. You know, I had been on the road for like 13 years before I took my job at the club. So for me, it was a little bit different, you know.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. I enjoy watching, you know, because first time I see a person live, I always feel like, hey, that's the show. And then I'll see them like Friday and go, oh, they changed it from Thursday. But might have been that Friday's the quote unquote show, and that Thursday was the night they were trying stuff out.
Yeah, you never really know.
Yeah,
that's the tough part. Is like, you can see anybody can bomb and anybody can kill. It just depends on the right night. You know, it's like catching lightning in a bottle. Yeah. I've seen the same show 7 times, and each time it'll be some of the same, some different, and like you figure out what their act actually is. The first time you see somebody who does like crowd work, and you're like, oh man, that was really good, and then you see them do it again, and they do the exact same like it has the same skeleton almost, like the same outline of like you almost you see them use like a specific reference of like, you look like a mountain man from the Swiss Alps, and then and then on the Saturday Late Show you see him use that same line and you go, oh man.
Exactly. Dude, that's an important thing though, that little lesson there, because I teach comedy as well at the club, and I always tell people that, like, hey, if you've got a joke, bring somebody into it.
Yeah.
Look at my ridiculous shirt. You got a shirt like that, sir. It doesn't matter what that guy's shirt looks like. You know what I mean? It makes the joke work.
Yeah, no. Happy Cole told me one of the best pieces of advice. He said, once they like you, you can get away with anything.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's like, if you can bring them into the bit and you can get them like almost create a common ground, or like just something you can all agree on, then immediately you're their friend now. Yeah. And once you're their friend, you can say anything. I punch babies. And they'll be like, hell yeah, we all punch babies.
Oh, man. So let's go back to, because I know I heard you, I think it was maybe the AGT audition, where you talked about just loving comedy as a kid and, you know, before you were doing it. Who were you watching, and how were you watching that stuff?
Man, when I tell you, I watched everybody. I'd watch anything I could get my hands on. So normally what would happen is if I was home, my brother and I, we would just watch like my mom wouldn't let us watch like dirty stuff. So we'd have to stay up late at night.
Yeah.
And, you know, when she would go to sleep, we'd have the TV volume on 1, and we'd have the blanket over the TV. We'd be sitting inches from it and just be listening to any type of, whether it was South Park or it was a Comedy Central Presents. But then I would, if I was staying at a friend's house, I used to go to this kid Ricky's house almost every night, and he would go to bed at like 10 o'clock. He was a nerd. And then he'd go to bed, and I'd be up till like 2, 3 in the morning watching the Comedy Central half hours.
Okay.
And they were so good, man. Yeah. They were like, I remember I watched everybody. Brett Ernst, Steve Byrne, Kevin Hart had a great one. Dane Cook had a great one. Like Pablo Francisco, like every single comedian that like I grew up watching, or like, you know, they're homies now. And like, it's such a crazy feeling of like getting to see these people when I was like 10 years old, and then now we're just doing spots together. It's mind blowing. And but yeah, I watched everything. I genuinely like just soaked up as much comedy as I could.
Comedy Central was the outlet for you then, more than anything.
Yeah, man, it was the best. Like I watched like the HBO specials and stuff, but like most of the HBO specials were like, it was hard to get your hands on like HBO at that time. It was so crazy expensive. But like, you know, you watch them, and they had DVDs and stuff. Like when the HBO specials would come out, we'd get those DVDs. But most of the time, Comedy Central was just on, you know, public. Like if you had regular cable, you could watch all the presents, and they'd show them late at night.
And at late at night, they were uncensored, at least for a while, right? They did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no, they were great. And like, it's tough because for the nostalgia purpose of it, I would love to have one. And they brought them back for a little bit, but they're not nearly as, like, they don't do anything for your career. But back in the day, if you had a Fire Presents, man, it changed your life.
It did. Absolutely. But you're, you know, when I was watching your stuff, I mean, Dry Bar did that for you. 5 million views on that Dry Bar?
Nah, I mean, across all platforms, it's got like 140
million.
But
just a YouTube thing I watched today. It said 5 million.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. It's done more for my career than the AGT thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild how many people recognize like the certain jokes from that special, and they're like, "Oh man, the grandma bit or the wine bit or your dumb friend Daryl or this thing." Like
Yeah.
the amount of people saw it, bro. When I taped that, I was dying. So
Dying
like
how?
even when I had alcohol poisoning,
Oh, really?
I went to the hospital 8 hours after the second show. Like
You
the second show ended, I went back to the hotel. I woke up the next morning and I called my mom. I was like, I got to go to the hospital. I think I'm gonna die.
were you just
And then
were you nervous and overdoing it, or was it what was going on?
nah, my friend had passed away, and I was using alcohol to kind of cope. And then so like 2 days before, to be fair, the day that it happened, I didn't mean for it to happen. It was one of those
Yeah.
things where like my roommate and I at the time, he had these like free vouchers for the casino. And he was like, let's go to the casino, let's spend these $200. He goes, if we hit big, we're gonna go out and celebrate. And if we don't hit big, then we're just gonna go back to the house, play Call of Duty and eat Burger King. And I was like, well, either way sounds tight to me. So we went to the casino, and within the first 20 minutes, he hit big for like a couple grand. So we had some seafood, and then we went to the strip club at like 4 p.m. and we didn't leave until midnight. And in between that, window of time, we were just pounding vodka Red Bulls. So by the end of the night, we ended up having 15 vodka Red Bulls each, and then in between the vodka Red Bulls, we're doing shots. So that was on Thursday night. Friday, I wake up and I'm absolutely miserable. I'm shaking. I'm crying. I'm like, I'm gonna die. I feel like I'm gonna pass out. And he was like, "No, I mean, you're gonna be all right." I was like, "I have to go to the hospital." He's like, "No, you're gonna be all right." And I was like, "I'm gonna die." And so he talked me into not going to the hospital. And then the next morning, I had to fly out at 5 a.m. to go to Utah to take the dry bar. So now, when I watch the dry bar, I see all of the imperfections, and I just see the death in my eyes. So that first show, because you take two shows, the first show went so well that like they were like, "Oh, that's probably what we're going to use for the special." So the second set, just have fun and mess around and this and that. And everybody came into the green room and they were so complimentary. They were like, "Oh, that was great," And I was like, "You got to understand, I don't have any capacity to talk to you right now because I'm gonna either throw up or die right now." But I was just like, thank you so much, thank you." Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah. Wow, what a story. I had no idea. I got to go back and watch that now.
Yeah, there's a bunch of times if you look that I look up at the clock.
Yeah.
And it's for multiple reasons. One, because I was like, I'm gonna pass the fuck out. And then two, it's because I had never done a set that clean before, ever. And so I had never practiced that set. I had never done those jokes without cursing. I had never done any of that at all. My college agent asked me like 2 weeks before, he goes, "Do you want to do a set for dry bar?" And I was like, "I don't know, I guess." And then so he was like, "Yeah, you can't say anything." And then I got there and they're like, "You can't talk about this, can't talk about this." So I just like whittled down a set. I just kind of just threw jokes together and it worked. But yeah, I was looking at the clock because I was like, one, either I'm going to pass out and die, or two, I'm going to pull up short because I've never done a set this clean before. And I don't know, if it's going to work. And then it ends up changing my life. So I got lucky.
Yeah, well, that's creativity sometimes is born from stress and having to fit something into certain package there, certain hole. You made it work for you though.
Yeah, near-death experience. That's all it takes for someone to change their life.
That's what they say though.
Yeah, be on the brink of death, and then magic can happen.
It's all on tape, and people continue to watch it and continue to enjoy it.
Yeah. It's so funny because every time somebody's like, "I loved it," and I'm like, "Oh, good. I'm glad I died."
If I'm not as good tonight, just know it's because I'm healthy and
Yeah,
I'm sober. It's the whole thing. So okay, let's get into this thing then. Tampa, that you grew up.
Yeah, off and on, mostly Tampa, but we moved a lot when I was a kid. Every time we'd move back to Tampa though. Like it was very strange. But yeah, I've lived in Texas, Baltimore, Michigan, Missouri, all over Alabama. But we'd move and then we'd move back. So yeah, for the most part, it's been Tampa.
Yeah, and I like Tampa. I spent a little bit of time in Tampa.
I love Tampa. It's gross.
Yeah. It's gross. What's gross about Tampa?
Oh, dude, it's grimy. It's such a gross city. Everything just smells like petroleum. It just is weird, dude. Yeah, no, it's a gross town, but I love it.
Good. That's all right. Hey, you got great weather for a comic. I think it's you got a lot of good flights. I'm sure, being a comic.
Yeah, the flights weren't bad. Now I live in Austin, and so like
Okay.
everything is easier to travel out of Austin.
Okay.
Like Texas is so central to the world that like I said the world as if like America's just the world.
The comedy world.
Yeah. I'm not going to Spain to do comedy.
Well, you might. I had Maz Joe Brownie on the show, and I was talking to
That's
Maz.
so funny. I worked with Maz like 8 years ago.
So Maz, you're at the Comedy Castle, and next week you're in the United Arab Emirates. All right, tell us about that. That's just Maz. Another night on the itinerary for Maz.
That's so funny. Yeah, just flying back and forth.
He's great, but dude, that's the end up. Hey, they're playing. Those oil guys are paying him big money to go down there.
Yeah, true that. I feel like if they ever offered to fly me out there, I'd be like, oh, they're gonna kill me. I'd be like, this is a setup. My dumb ass, I'd be like, yeah, I'll go. I'll do it.
You go, man. You go. It'd be funny. Win them over. Make them laugh. Dude, I enjoy all this stuff. Just a couple of things I was watching of you. I watched you get to rent the Wagoneer. You really gave that back, huh?
Straight up. Yeah, no, dude, this is what happened. I tried to leave the parking lot and I realized how massive this thing was.
It's gigantic,
and it was so bulky and so expensive, and I don't think I got the insurance.
Oh, okay.
So immediately I turned the little corner and I busted a U-turn. I didn't even contemplate getting out of the parking lot. I U-turned as fast as I could. I parked it. I went right back in. I was like, you have to take this back. The guy looked at me and he goes, I've never had someone returning a car because it was too nice.
Well, those
I was like, yeah. But I was like, I need a Honda. I need a Toyota. I need something that I've driven before.
I get that. But those Wagoneers are made not far from the club.
Man, there is a beautiful piece of machinery. I could live in that car and have no issues.
I agree. I had a job test driving those for a while.
Damn.
During the pandemic, I got a job and I was driving all these, Jeeps and Stellantis vehicles, and you never knew what you were going to get. So if you got a Wagoneer, because you'd have to drive like 8 hours, 300 miles all over. And it was like, if you got a Wagoneer, you had a great day.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this is the thing. This is my favorite.
Yeah. If it wasn't so big, because like I'm not used to driving like big vehicles. That to me was a U-Haul. Yeah. Like that thing was. It was a big bulky thing, but it was so roomy. Like if I wasn't driving, if I was just a passenger, I'd be like, this is amazing.
You want it. You can put all the homies in there. Or all the girls, whatever you
TV in the front.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the center console, I think, I don't know if the one you had, the center console, that little, you have a little cubby hole, that's refrigerated. Keep your drinks cold right in the center. Yeah.
I didn't even check the center console.
That's how that works. Dude, that thing has all kind of cool shit on it. It's really neat.
Yeah, as soon as I got in it, I was like, there's no way. Because they handed me the key to it, and I remember looking at the key being like, the hell is this? I've never seen no car like this. And then when I got to the parking lot and I clicked it and I saw which car lit up, I was like, no way.
Yeah, those things are something else, man. They're a ton of money, but hey, you don't even see that many of them out there.
I was worried about crashing it or like dinging it and being, broke for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you don't need all that to get to the gig, but
not at all. If I pulled up to a comedy club with that, they'd be so upset. All for them to give me a $45 check at the end of the night. They're paying me in drink tickets, but I pulled up in a Wagoneer.
I think you're getting more than drink tickets this weekend, my friend. You'll be doing all right. We got a big room. We got a big showroom. We got almost a 400-seat showroom. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I did not know that. Yeah. That's sick.
It goes back. It goes way back.
Hell yeah. Well, hopefully some people come.
Hopefully there's people back there. Nah, you're going to have a great time, man. And you're a guy, I think, just watching your stuff and your style and looking at some of your Instagram and stuff, there's definitely a new wave of comedy with guys like Matt Rife, and I'd put you right in there with him. And here's a guy, Jeff R. Curry, who's kind of does a lot of crowd work style. And he's a guy that used to work with me at Open Mic I ran in Detroit. So
man,
you guys are killing it, man. I'm real proud of you guys. And Jeff and yeah, you're doing it.
Jeff's crushing it. Matt's a good friend of mine.
Is he really? Okay,
I talked to him like last week, man. It's amazing seeing guys who deserve it and guys who have, really put the time in and care about the craft. Like seeing them win is it feels like a win for everybody.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
It just it shows you that it can happen, because so many times you get down on yourself and you get down on just like the business and what the game is now, and then you see a guy win that you came up with, and you're like, oh, not only can it happen, but it does happen to the right people sometimes.
Well, it has to happen. I think one of the great things about Matt and guys like you that come out, and I see this working at the club every week, depending upon who the act is. Matt brings people to the comedy clubs that weren't going. They weren't going to comedy.
Yeah.
And when we have a younger head, we had Cam Patterson recently, and it was just like,
that's my dog.
Yeah,
started.
Dude, he was so funny, and it's just like, hey, this audience isn't our usual audience that would be here, but that's a great thing for our business as a comedy club and comedy in general, is to have new people coming into it, and new acts are attracting that. It's not the old guys aren't attracting, guys, college age kids.
Their fan base is dying.
Yeah. Literally, yeah, and that's okay. And they're dying, and that's okay. Happens to all of us. But yeah, man, you're out there, and you find that the crowd is starting to be more your age than maybe when you started before you had some fame.
Yeah, it's interesting because I never really put my finger on that. I was just kind of because it's tough too. There's a lot of variables. You go, what night of the week is it? You go, what time of the year is it? Because if it's a Tuesday night, the crowd is more than likely going to be younger because old people don't want to go out on a weekday and those kinds of things. And if you go, okay, what time of year is it? Because if people are saving up for Christmas or like birthdays or like, you always kind of judge it by that, or what else is in town this week. So it is tough, but yeah, I do think younger people are going to comedy shows more often now than before. But it also is like, which part of the region are you in? Like,
okay.
Some people in the Midwest don't care what night of the week it is, especially because if they live in a small town, they're like, we're going to do whatever is coming to this city because what else are we going to do? But if you're in, a bigger city where you're competing with Jelly Roll, it's like, you kind of have to hope and pray that you hit the lottery at some point.
Well, look, once you get big enough, they'll come out any night of the week for you.
That is true.
Doesn't matter.
That is true.
That's right. I see Springsteen
Mondays in Scotland.
I go to see Springsteen all over the country, right? And it's like Springsteen plays on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and people go because it's him. They doesn't have to be Saturday night to sell out.
There's some places where I'll be there on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and people will be like, "Why didn't you come on a weekend?" And I'll be like, "Well, because I don't know. They booked me on a Tuesday. What do you want from me?"
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think for some people, like at a big club, when you're a newer act, they go, "Let's bring you in for a night." You'll sell it out the one night. But the Saturday, you may not want to be, better get that audience in one night than stretch it out over 5 shows or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, even doing that, I think sometimes that works better for the club and the comic, because if they're able to sell out one night somewhere, then they can go to a different city that next night. But if you put them in the room for multiple nights and they can't sell it, then it kind of screws everybody.
Yeah. But you're doing the whole weekend, man. I'm really proud of you. It's great.
Thank you.
Guy like you. Are you just now 30? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, I turned 30 in February, so we're almost looping back. I'm about to hit 31. Oh, dude, it hits you fast.
Well, when did you start doing comedy? How old were you when you first got on stage?
Probably 18, 19.
Okay.
19. Yeah. October 30th, 2019. So, what was that? 2013.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I was 19. Pretty wild. This will be my 11th year in comedy.
Yeah, that's good though. It takes a while. It really does.
Yeah, it
takes a while.
Long grind.
Absolutely.
No, for sure. I mean, I told my mom when I started that it'd probably take 10 years, and nailed it. used every bit of it.
Absolutely. I was talking. I started in '99, and I was talking to some of our wait staff, some of the waitresses. And I was telling them that. I said, when I first walked into this club, it was in 1999, and you did open mic, whatever. And they were like, I was born in 1999. Oh, God, did I feel old.
Damn. Yeah. No, that's always the tough one. Dude, my girlfriend's younger than me, and so, like, we'll talk about certain stuff, and I'm like, damn, you weren't even around. That sucks. It's always interesting when you go, oh, man, I forgot that I've been around for a while. You start to feel like old, I guess.
Well, how big is your age difference?
8 years, dude.
Okay, but when you're 30, eight's a lot.
Yeah, because I mean, it's the difference between her knowing 9/11 and her not knowing 9/11. She doesn't remember 9/11, dude.
Yeah, me and my fiance, we're 14 apart. I'm 14 older, but I'm 52, so it's not. You know what I mean. It's still like not that bad.
Yeah, because at a certain point, like, it's how long y'all been together?
We've been together since 18, so almost 6 years. So.
Oh, yeah. But if it was before that, like if it was like a while before that, you'd be like, oh, the difference is big because of just like what you can talk about. But at that point, it's like, oh, you already know who you are. You know what you like.
We've got 6 years of stuff to talk about that happened to us.
Yeah, right.
Disasters and all kind of stuff. So let me see here. What else do I got for you? You know, the AGT thing. Can you talk more about that than you did? What happened? What was there some decision that kept you from moving on that show?
So they
if you can,
it was a weird. No, I mean, I honestly had no idea. I didn't really read the contract, so I had no idea what I'm allowed to say and not allowed to say. And also, I've just kind of been talking about it willy nilly because who cares?
Who cares now? But you were a guy that was on the show. You moved on. Everyone watched you move on, and then when they did the next round of people moving on, you just weren't there.
So this is what happened. That particular year, they didn't have what's called a judge cuts round, which would have been an extra round of people that audition and then it gets whittled down again.
Yeah.
So because it was during like the COVID stuff, they didn't want to house because they had to house all the acts for like 2 extra days for like testing and all that stuff. So they didn't have another round. So of all the people who got yeses, only like 30 people, so 30 out of say like 80 or whatever, got to go to the live shows. Now, I was one of the people who got the live shows. They called me and they were like, hey, congrats, you got the live shows. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And then right before I was going to go, like week of, the lawyer for AGT, she called me and she was crying because she was such a sweet lady. And like, I'd already talked to her when I went and did the audition and she was very kind. And she was calling me, she was crying. She was like, I'm sorry, like making these phone calls sucks. I was like, what's going on? She was like, it's not us. The lawyers for NBC, like for the network, they decided that you can't advance. Like you can't do the live shows. And I was like, why not? She was like, I can't tell you that, like legally. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, I'm not allowed to tell you why you are not moving on. But this, that, and third. And then, yeah, it was just kind of shitty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm also the type of person where like, I'm very understanding. It is a business. I understand the business.
Yeah.
So if they would have been like, hey, we heard you on a podcast. We heard you this and that. You're kind of a wild boy. Like, we know, like I would have respected it. I'd have been like, you know, you're right. Because I'm not a controllable person because like I don't say too many like outlandishly wild things, and if I do, it's for the bit. It's a joke. You know, I love comedy, and the last thing I'm gonna do is like I'm not this edgelord guy, but I'm also not going to censor myself if I think the bit is worth it. I do the censoring before I even like make the joke. So like there's the juice worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? If I'm gonna make this type of offensive joke, I have to make sure it's worth it. So. Anyways, if I make a bit, I'm not going to apologize for it. And if they would have just been like, hey, you know, this is a multi-billion-dollar production. We can't really have you saying these things in this way. I would have understood it. I would have been like, yeah, no, for sure.
Ugh.
So it just sucked that, like, I didn't even have the opportunity to hear them out as far as, like, why I didn't get it. But
yeah, and then it must make you think, well, what did they hear? Oh, it must have been that thing that I did. Yeah, it must have been that thing. Or was it that thing?
I definitely said some wild stuff about like Britney Spears. I said like I was having fun. Like, you know, just whatever. And it could have been something I tweeted when I was 16. And it could have been anything, man. Like they sent me, this was the other thing that kind of bothered me is they sent me this like long breakdown of all the things that I'd ever tweeted or Facebook and all this. Like they had a big deep dive, but they sent that before I even auditioned. So they had all of this information. They already knew everything. So if it was something like that, why even let me audition? Like if you knew that, oh man, he's tweeted some outlandish things, you should have just held off my, you know, but It is what it is. It still helps me. There's still, I'm still the thumbnail on Hulu. So
hey, we're still talking about it today.
yeah, right. There is also something fun about like because people saw the audition and they keep wondering like, oh, they did you dirty. They should have advanced you, isn't that? You kind of get that what could have happened thing instead of like, imagine if I went on there the second time and I bombed and then people are like, oh, never mind. So like you almost get the ominous thing of like, oh man, he could have crushed the second set. Yeah. Meanwhile, like imagine Tupac or Biggie kept rapping and then there's third or fourth album they're talking about I don't know, Gen Z or whatever. Like you're like, oh, this isn't nearly as good.
Yeah, I mean, AGT certainly helps comics. We have some comics that come through that, Drew Lynch, as just one example, comes through, and sells the place out, because people loved him on that show. So
Preacher's a big fan.
Preacher, absolutely.
Big brother of mine. He started in Orlando. We did a lot of shows together when he was coming up.
Yeah, he's come through as well and did very well. Sold a bunch of tickets, and yeah, man. But we're looking forward to this weekend, man, for sure.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked, man. I've heard nothing but great things about this club.
Yeah, you should have a good time. I mean, it's going to be fall weather, which whether you like that or not, that's what you're going to get.
Does that mean cold?
Well, it's been like mid-80s with no rain for about 2 weeks, which is super unusual for September. And over the weekend, it started raining and it started to change. So, low 70s, light jacket. Light jacket, maybe an umbrella. The hotel will probably have an umbrella for you, so you probably don't even have to fire up an umbrella. You'll be all right. You'll be fine. But that's what you get. You're going to get if you want that Michigan, that Midwestern fall feel, you're going to get it this weekend.
Oh, man. Now I'm just going to pack all hoodies.
That's all right.
This conversation makes me feel like I'm going to be freezing every show.
No, you're not free. Well, if are you a Florida guy? Well, I mean, you're in Texas now still, but are you cold when it's 65 out?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I do get cold rather easily.
That's LA people, I find. People I know that move to LA and they come out, it's so cold here. Oh. And what happened to you? You were in LA for 6 months.
I'd rather be lit on fire than to be shivering.
No, you're going to be all right. We're going to take good care of you. We'll drive you to and from whatever you need, Cam. We'll make that happen for you.
Oh, perfect.
Exactly it. And I'm excited too. I got one of my former students is your MC this weekend, I think. So.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
No, I'm stoked. I'm
Peggy.
excited.
And let's Peggy.
Oh, sweet.
Peggy. Does Peggy sound like an old name? Because she's believe Peggy might be 60 years old, but she's a riot. She's funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know any young Peggy.
You're gonna like this Peggy. She's dirty and she's fun, man. I really looking forward to seeing that too. Well, thanks so much for talking to me, man. Anything else you want to plug? Or I mean, we don't want to get people out this weekend, but let them know now.
No, I'm excited. I hope everybody comes out. I hope they have a good time. Bring your auntie. Bring your service puppets. I don't know what you got.
They can come.
Y'all got chinchillas. Y'all got,
come. Yeah.
Yeah, come out and let's do comedy.
All right, I'm gonna leave you with a funny story. A lady brought a service dog to see Rob Schneider.
Oh no!
And it took a shit in the middle of the comedy club.
That's great.
She brought awesome. A teacup Yorkie that stunk the club up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
that's funny.
Maybe he was a comedy fan. I don't know what his deal is. But all right, Cam. Hey, thanks so much for talking, dude. I'll see you this weekend. All right, man?
All right, brother. I'll see you soon.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye. Yeah, there it is. I got to go back and watch that dry bar to see how what kind of state he was in during that thing. Now that I got a little feel for Cam and how he is. That's a fun interview. Nice dude. It's like I said in the interview, fun to see young guys doing well in comedy. And they're a little different. And they got older guys are like fighting back a little bit, but no need for that. They're bringing young people to the club. Let's do it. Let's do it this weekend, right? 5 big shows. Cam Bertrand, thanks for the interview, dude. We'll see you this weekend. We'll see you guys if you're coming out. And let's not forget about the comedy classes at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle before we go. We've got the beginner class starting with Bill Bashart. Not sure what the next date is, But Bill always has classes starting. Those are on Saturdays and Mondays. And then I do the advanced comedy class. I've got one starting in October on the 19th of October, Saturday afternoon at 12:30. It runs for 6 weeks. If you're looking to be a professional comedian, if you have done a little bit of comedy or you've done the beginner class, I will teach you all that I think you need to know in your first few years of comedy and really kind of guide you through that, because there's a lot. There is a lot. I did a lecture this past weekend at the Motor City Comedy Festival, and I talked about being an MC and how important that was and how many comics need that training. I'm giving it to you in the advanced comedy class. Sign up. Call the club October 19th. All right. That's enough for me. Come see Cam this weekend. It's going to be a good time. Thanks for listening, as always, and we'll catch you next time here on the Comedy Castle Podcast. Good night.